Let's bring in General Mark Kimmitt from Washington. He's a former Assistant Secretary of State for Political Military Affairs. General, great to have you. What do you make of this situation? It seems to me it's only getting worse.
I think so. And the fact that Iran is now reaching out for perhaps restarting diplomatic talks is an indication to me that the pressure on Tehran is getting to the point where they no longer can sit there and try to defend against this, but they need to take positive action to try to end the situation.
Now, General, I want to talk about the reason why all of this has started. Of course, Israel says that Iran poses an existential threat to the country. In fact, the Prime Minister Netanyahu warned that Iran was close to weaponization, yet the IAEA and U.S. intelligence assessments still say Iran has not started its nuclear weapons program. So, keeping that in mind, was this conflict necessary?
Well, the first thing I think your viewers need to understand is that Israel is under an existential threat from Iran. And the second thing is that there's no doubt that Iran was working towards a weaponization program. The only question is how long. So there was no doubt by the United States that Iran was seeking to develop a nuclear weapon. Israel had the same assessment as well. It was just a difference in timelines about how quickly that could happen and how dangerous a threat that was to Israel.
If the threat was so real, then why is the United States not directly involved in these attacks?
Well, the United States is supporting Israel. The United States has provided intelligence, military capabilities, financing over the years. But right now, the United States view, and President Trump's view in particular, and that's the only one that matters, is that negotiations have not completely played out. Economic sanctions have not been played out. So there was no reason at this time for the Israelis to conduct an attack on Iran.
General Kimmitt, isn't there a risk here that these strikes, rather than delaying Iran's nuclear capability, could actually accelerate it by pushing Tehran to fully abandon diplomacy and rush towards a bomb? Because we're also hearing reports some Iranian officials have made statements where they're possibly thinking about withdrawing from the nuclear non-proliferation treaty.
Well, the fact remains is that that there's very little likelihood at this point that Iran could rush to a nuclear weaponization program. This has always been feared. One would hope and one would expect that the Israelis have made a significant dent setting back that program by years, if not completely eliminating it. I don't think they have eliminated it. They haven't assassinated all the technical experts. So there still is a chance for Iran to develop that nuclear weapon, but that timeline has been sent back by years based on this bombing campaign.
General Kimmitt, now, with tensions already high in the Middle East, especially in Gaza and Lebanon, how do you think Israel is planning to contain the fallout of this escalation if there is further retaliation from Iran?
Well, I think the Iron Dome defensive systems, the Iron Beam, the Arrow, the Sling, the Patriot missiles means that for the most part, Israel is certainly not taking the casualties that the Iranians would like. The number of casualties are in the double digits, but they look at what happened on October 7th when over 1,500 of its citizens were slaughtered. I think they're in a wartime construct and they're willing and able to continue this warfare for quite some time.
General Kimmitt, now we have spoken about Iran's possible capability of getting a nuclear weapon in the future, but one thing that everyone knows, and of course it's not stated officially, that Israel has nuclear weapons. And I want to ask you this question: what would it take for Israel to use a nuclear weapon against Iran? Because it can.
Well, I think there are a number of scenarios. The one that I would be most concerned about is that somehow Iran is capable of taking that stockpile of enriched uranium that it currently has and turns it into a dirty bomb. Rather than a nuclear weapon, what you would have is highly radioactive material that, if exploded over a major city, would have a radioactive fallout, killing probably thousands of people. I think at that point, if Israel has a nuclear weapon, it would be more than happy to use it against Iran to punish Iran for that activity.
Fascinating insights. General Mark Kimmitt, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for joining me here on TRT World.